Number two, you also made a new point that westernization is not westernization, it is industrialization or modernization, which was a very good point. Other thing is you should take chance. Once it happened that you started speaking.
How should you take chance when there are 8 or 9 people there?
Okay, I'll come to that. See, the instance which I am referring to, you started speaking, within 2 seconds number 5 started speaking and you kept quiet. Probably that you should not have done, because had it been number 3 who has spoken a lot earlier, he could have afforded to lose that. But number 1 and number 2, you spoke very low initially. So once you have a chance, you should always speak. You should not get, say, overcome by some other person. Now coming back to the point that if there are 8 people or if there are 12 people, how do I speak? In a GD, you always get intervals where the conversation drops after some time. You observe a GD. When you observe decibel levels, you will see sometimes it goes to a peak and then comes to a low. There is always a chance to speak. For example, when number 3 started, let's say, you will see that for first minute he was unstoppable. But then after that, he has no more points to speak. So he'll keep on repeating his points. His voice will go down. And you have a chance to speak now. And in the worst case scenario, where there are 8 people or 12 people, the topic is very simple, everybody wants to speak, it's a fish market, then probably raising your voice or becoming more aggressive is the thing that you have to do. There is no other chance. Because the worst case scenario is that you will not speak at all, which is not something that you can afford.
Is cutting someone's other
That is perfectly fine, because if you do not cut that person and if you don't get a chance to speak, you're not going to get selected.
And what if, like, I have met my man said I should start, but he started because his thought process get us faster, and I was going to start with that point only. So it's like that I had to wait for my chances then once he has started, because both gonna be introductory statements.
See, you can, when he started, you can, the best way to continue from the discussion is to bring new points. You had new points. You spoke about modernization, which was a very valid point. And this is such a common topic that there are so many aspects that you can speak about. English is a language of common use today. It's so common. Nobody speaks in Hindi, nobody speaks in vernacular language at an official level, isn't it? So that way you should have new ideas and you should look for the opportunity to speak. Now, coming to number 1, I think you spoke very less and you didn't make any new points. So the person, see, when I'm sitting as a panelist, who are the people whom I notice? The starter I'll notice, because he's the one to start the GD, he's the one who makes the first impression. And second thing is who makes a very good point, a new twist to the whole discussion. So that is what I'm looking at. So that's why I could remember number 2 and number 4, because they made new points. And number 5, you spoke more than number 1, number 2. But again, you didn't have new points. So probably you can think of bringing some new aspects to discussion. That would be very beneficial. Thank you.
I have a question. Like when the GD is becoming like this market, everyone is speaking at my voice level and all. When you are interrupting, sometimes I have seen the whole group is out of, no one getting selected. So how to make your entry when everyone is speaking at high pitch, everyone is speaking at high voice level? If someone was speaking at low voice level, you are finding he has made his point, his voice is going low, just interrupt at that point. But when everyone is speaking, everyone has point, then how to make it?
The panelists, they are watching you very closely. What point you are trying to make. Let's say, assume a scenario where it's a fish market and number 2 is trying to make a point. He tried 3-4 times but couldn't make his point. But at least I can listen to him what he's trying to say. Because in a fish market, you are supposed to continue at least 2 sentences what you want to make. Because worst case scenario, you won't get to speak at all, you won't get selected for sure. At least the ones making noise might have a chance to get selected.
Coming into specific points, number 3, one of the things you said when you were starting off is that India is second in terms of wheat production, it is third in terms of rice production. Now those may have been good statistics, but I'm not sure that they are relevant to the discussion of India as being westernized. If they were good and they were relevant, then you should have linked them in some way. For example, you could have said that what is a variety of wheat that we use. If you had said that, or what is the variety of rice that we use and from which country it has been taken. Number 4 was you were the one who said let's define westernization. So you could have taken that point a little further and said, okay, why don't we actually come back and let's define westernization, or let's break it down into the different parts and then let's look at each part separately. You were the only one who said that let's get into defining it. Number 2, you went into the aspect of saying that let's look at globalization versus modernization. So again, you could have globalization versus westernization. Again, you could have taken it up a little more and said that no, these are the reasons why I believe that yes, it is globalization. When you were making your point, you took quite a long time to come to the conclusion, which in a more active or a bigger GD you might not have had the time to do so. In the first 3 or 4 sentences of your attempt, you need to get your main point across. After that, you can keep substantiating by saying, okay, these are the reasons why I believe it is so. But if you make your point and the conclusion comes at the end and you get interrupted somewhere in between, then I don't know what is your main point. And hence I don't really, you may have a very good point to make, but because I don't know what is the conclusion, I don't get your point as a panelist.
So we want to add an introduction or prelude to my point. If I'm going to make some point, so I would just, and there is some discussion which is totally in the other direction.
Right. So you say that I don't agree with this. I believe that we are not looking at westernization but globalization, and the reasons for these are 1, 2, 3, 4. What I'm saying is that you start with the conclusion and then work backwards or whatever. But at least somebody who's listening to you as a panelist should know that this is the viewpoint that I have. Then if out of 4 reasons you are able to manage only 3 to speak, at least you've got 90% of your point across. Okay. Number 5, you had the point that westernization is happening only in metros, which is relevant and which is right, but you could have also brought in other aspects. What do you think about the rural areas, for example? Do you think they're westernized? Do you think they're not westernized? As of now, I know only one sub part of what you think. That okay, you think that the metro cities are getting westernized, and yes, they are, which is there. But what do you think about the rural areas? What do you think about family values? What do you think about something else? All those other aspects also, if you had brought in, and each time you speak, if you speak up differently, then it would have been much better. Number 1, you did not contribute that much, and you could have used the opportunities that you had to speak more and to speak earlier.
So after, if someone like stands up and says, I don't disagree, then that can backfire. Like if someone stands out from the GD and he says, I don't agree.
So as long as you have valid logic behind saying so. Some people think that if I take a view opposite to others, I would stand out. Sometimes that is strategy. But whatever you do, if you don't have reasoning behind that, it would fall flat.
If you are the only person who's taken one stand, all the other rest have taken other stands. As he said, that can be a strategy to get more chance to speak, because everybody will keep refuting your point. And the moment people refute your point, you have a chance to come up with a counterpoint. You have a chance to come up with more arguments. So it sometimes helps to be on the side of the fewer number of people.
One more question. Actually, you asked that when you put the figures, you could have come with somewhat more definite figures or more examples. But suppose we have more common examples, or maybe we don't have any examples, then what should we do in that case?
Define, structure, summarize. What he did was to throw numbers, but those numbers, fortunately, unfortunately, were not relevant and you didn't pick on it, as he rightly pointed out, as he said. But if you have statistics, if you're basing it on facts, if your argument has facts behind it, you throw your conclusion, give your facts, that is the best way to, present your argument.
So in case we have facts, we put it, or else you don't even utter a word about that fact.
Unless you are very sure that nobody else knows.